Welcome to Dare, the show for startup leaders, innovators, and entrepreneurs who dare to shape the future. Dare is brought to you by the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network, OEN, and Darwoft, the superpower tech team that can make your vision a reality. The Dare podcast has an exciting different episode for you today where we have two female leaders in the Portland area who are here to talk about their passion for startups. So welcome to the show, Executive Director of the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network, Cara Turano.
Hi, good morning.
Great to have you here. And also Cecilia Mariani, who's the CEO of Darwoft, our show sponsor.
Good morning. Good morning, Ned. Good morning, Cara.
So I'm excited to have you both here because you're here partially to announce a new partnership this year. OEN is co-sponsoring this show, the Dare podcast, along with Cecilia Mariani from Darwoft. So I just wonder if you could both take a turn to talk about why this partnership exists and how it's going to help. Maybe we could start with Cecilia.
Yes, thank you, Ned. Well, I think that this partnership makes a lot of sense because we love helping startups to grow and to make their ideas alive or create their own products. So, for example, yesterday in the OEN events, in the pub talk that we listen some experiences from some people, I get impressed, for example, with the rock, paper, coin, I think.
Yes.
Nora mentioned, and everything that she was mentioned made a lot of sense for me in order to, okay, this is exactly what we do, helping startups. She mentioned that she didn't know anything about technology. So the difficulty for some startup is that, right? They want to include the technology to solve their problems. And well, this is what we do. So for me, congratulations, Kato, for yesterday pub talk, but it was fantastic.
Thank you. I think I can answer the same question almost the same way. So, because we work with a lot of early stage startups, like across multiple industries, we see a lot of things. And for a long time before I had this job, like I just assumed that if you were a startup or an entrepreneur, you were a techie. Like that's what you did. And what we've seen at OEN over the last 3 years that I've been in role is a lot of the folks that are coming up with tech solutions tend to be not technologists. They have really good ideas for efficiencies or improvements or disruption or, a B2C or a D2C, and they just don't really know how to build the tech. And so it's nice to have a partner that can provide that function for growth, particularly since we teach at OEN that it is better to outsource those things than to hire them when you have just started. And Darwoft was just a really good partner last year through that process. Like, I think it's quite funny. I would have people say, oh, yeah, like I reached out to Ned or we're already working with them. And I'm like, you're not even coming to me to like connect you. So the sponsorship that you had last year where you talked about what you were doing obviously resonated with some of our entrepreneurs. And then I like the funny story that Ned told me because this podcast is really about like featuring entrepreneurs and talking about their success. And an entrepreneur was on who was like, oh, that's really cool that you do this for OEN. And Ned was like, we don't do this for OEN. And then was like, maybe we should do this for OEN because we're all really supporting founders the same way. And it's really neat for us because we're a small nonprofit. I mean, now we're a team of 4, but this is not an area of expertise that we have in the nonprofit world. And it's a really cool opportunity to be able to feature our entrepreneur members in a unique way, which, we tell them when you get on a podcast like this, that's market validation. Congratulations.
Right. It's telling their story, right? So I'm curious if I could back up a little bit. Cecilia, how did you get into startups and what is your experience running startups? Because you've had a few companies under your belt.
Yes. Well, as you know, Ned, because we worked together at Intel, so I worked for several years, more than 20, in big companies like Motorola and Intel. But I think that everything I learned a lot there, right? So, and how to build products. And well, I met there with Ned, with Christian, that it was also yesterday in the pub talk. So, and with all that experience, that it's possible to create product, to change. I think that we change the world when we are creating new products, new ways to interact with
Yeah.
people. And with that in mind, I think that after when I decided to create my own company at one moment, that it was at that time Fukuro. So, and we created that company with Christian Bulogles. And well, from that moment that I became the entrepreneur, I said, okay, this is my life. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life, creating new products, helping other companies, in this case, because I am creating software services, but I am creating, we love creating products. That's why we create MVPs. And we
Yeah.
did the MVP a product. So I became an entrepreneur and I love it. I love it. It's like, it's
Yeah.
a 24-hour work. Well, you know that. We go to talk with different people, to do connections with different customers. And I think that's the reason that I study engineer, to solve problems. So to solve problems and to find different way to how to solve those problems. But now it's with the technology is to create products to solve those problems. So well, that's my life now.
Yeah, and what's cool about your experience is you can bring a wealth of wisdom from past products that have succeeded and that have failed. So
Mhm.
I'm just curious if you could both speak a little bit to how failing at things helps startups to succeed in the long term. Like Cara, you've talked to a number of startups. Most startups don't hit a home run out of the park at the first time at bat. So how does failing help a startup?
I mean, I think we heard it last night at the pub talk, which is always like my favorite thing. Well, number one, there's never enough money. And so I think and we hear this all the time. Everybody that's raised venture ever is like, oh, I never got the amount of money that I needed. So things immediately have to become different when you're not getting the money that you think you're going to get. I think some of my
Yeah.
favorite stories actually come out of the life sciences space where it's very capital intensive and you have seen things become created that have been literally life-saving because you haven't been able to raise the money that you thought you needed to pursue one avenue. And then you've got these like accidental entrepreneurship moments where you create a product that all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to save somebody's life. And it's basically ready to go to market. So I think that what failure teaches you is sometimes like how to be even more innovative than you were going to be in the first place. And there's just something about the entrepreneurs that fail and their resilience. And I think like because of the role that I have in the community, like I can tell you who I think will succeed because they're the ones that like have a bad day and are willing to like learn from it. And the folks that are not as open to, being wrong are not always the ones that are going to wind up making the best entrepreneur.
Right, those who bounce back from failure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Cecilia, do you wanna speak to that aspect of entrepreneurs failing,
Right.
succeeding?
Yeah. Well, I love that. I always say that I really like to fail fast and learn. So it's something that, of course, that I failed a lot of time, but it's the possibility to improve and to change. For me, is that it happened even when I created the first startup that we were running out of money. So when you run out of money, you need to think faster, to say what we can do better, what we can. So we wanted to grow faster than and with that in mind, and because of running out of money, and we merged with Darwoft, right? So is that when you are having problems or issues, you need to have time to think in different way. So even when you are creating a product or when you are deciding what you are going to do with your own company.
Yeah.
I was going to
Yeah,
say,
well
I think I couch it in entrepreneurial phrasing, right? Like we do it a lot at OEN. It's like, oh, well, if we look at some of our programs and events from last year, these didn't do particularly well, but we were just doing some like market validation and the market proved that this was not what we should adopt. So we're going to like take that input and we're going to edit, evolve, change to see what the market is going to support. That's our favorite way to talk about failure.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Well, both of you have deep experience in leading teams and leading successful teams and leading through failures to greater success. So, could you tell us any of your secrets to leadership? Since I started with Cecilia last time, maybe I can start
Oh,
with Cara
yes.
this time.
Oh, yes. Okay, sure. I knew you were gonna pick on me. I love that question. I sometimes like fail to think of myself as the leader, but I will say that it has evolved with age and wisdom. How about that? I think for a long time, I was really good expectation setter. I think I'm a fairly good communicator. So telling folks what I expect, being really clear about the goals, offering us like it's my favorite question at the beginning of every week is what do you need from me to be successful? Like how can I help remove barriers? And I think one thing that has shifted as I have gotten older is giving myself more grace, which
Mm.
has afforded me the opportunity to give the folks that work for me and that I lead a little bit more grace and really being able to see more nuances than things in black and white. And we even had a situation yesterday where one of our staff members said, I'm really not comfortable with this situation. And I said, I understand. And it wasn't a situation where like anyone was going to be hurt. It was just like
Yeah.
some strongly worded communication and some people's opinions. And, I said, I appreciate that you're willing to share that. And like the converse side of that is if you think about where this other person is coming from, like they are also coming from a good place. They're just framing it in a way that you view as very negative, but like that is their perception of being helpful. And so I think like that ability to see both sides and like kind of everything in the middle has helped me lead in the last couple of years in a very public facing organization where we have a lot of constituents.
Right. So thank you so much for that. Cecilia, any secrets of leadership from you?
Well, one of that, I think that having a vision or setting goals is very important for me and for the team working with me. And I think that I have that ability to set up goals, challenge goals, and then try to accomplish them, right? So, and you know that we need to adapt because everything is changing. So
Right.
there is something of resilience because I need to adapt to the changes. But when I set a goal, I set up a goal, I continue doing it in a different ways and I know keep moving forward. This is something that I
Right. Yeah, just speaking personally as someone who has worked with you over the years, Cecilia, you are fantastic at setting a vision and being really clear about that. And one vision that you've been great at is expanding Darwoft further into the United States and the Pacific Northwest. And your company is based in Argentina, but has a big footprint in the Pacific Northwest. So, one thing, like I've actually had the good fortune of being in Argentina with you and then back here in Portland. And I wonder if you could speak to entrepreneurial culture in Cordoba, Argentina. What is the startup world like in Cordoba? And then, of course, I'll turn to you, Cara, and ask about the startup culture here in Portland. And I bet you there are some commonalities. So, Cecilia, what about Cordoba?
as you mentioned, I have that in mind to be in Portland area for several years. See, more than 10 years. I love this area, not only Portland, now I can say Oregon State. So, and have that in mind as a vision, because you know that I was planning to came here to live here. So, but then when I started my young company, I said, okay, I am going to do business in Portland. And we continue our relationship, not only with you, Ned, but you know that we have a lot of friends here that we are meeting each other each time that I came here, that I also came with my family, with my kids to have that great experience here. So knowing the place is really good for me to do business. And
Yeah.
Cordova, and we are doing business. And as you said, another goal is to be global. And this relationship between Portland and Cordova. Well, in Cordova, we have such a great talent and a great ecosystem to do for startups. When I was thinking about that, I said, why? Why we have such a good place for innovation? This is, in my mind, my idea, but we have a lot of universities, more than 20 tech universities. So Cordova is well known as a place where Cordova University, National University, is one of the first one in America. So, and that came from Jesuits that came with all the education stuff to Cordova. So is education. And not only that, I think that why the innovation, why we innovate so much, not only in Cordova, in Argentina. I think that is because so many problems that we have, so many economic problems, and that we need to lead with so many issues that a lot of people have that in mind, have to solve real issues. And so we have a lot of unicorns in Argentina, like
Mhm.
Ovant, Voila, Mercado Libre, I think. So it's a way to, I think that makes a lot of sense to do innovation and try to change the things that are not working well.
Right. The reputation of Cordoba and of Argentina in general is huge in the startup world. I mean, Auth0, their CTO is from
Zero, yes.
Argentina, Mercado
Mhm.
Libre, Satellite Logic. I mean, there's a number of companies that were birthed in Argentina or have technical roots in Argentina. And to your point, I mean, the Jesuits started teaching math and science in the kind of Western model rather than the indigenous model back in the 1500s.
Yeah.
So there are people who have, a heritage of math and science in that region for hundreds of years. So it's really fantastic to have that legacy. So Cordoba, great startup scene. I've been there. It's a great ecosystem. It's very similar to Portland. A lot of people who are really having a lot of fun solving problems, as you said. So I'm sorry to steal your thunder a little bit there, Kara, but tell us more about Portland and what makes Oregon fantastic for entrepreneurs.
I was gonna also say, didn't Argentina, isn't that the birthplace of the peanut M&M?
I think it is. I
I
think it
think
is.
it is. I think y'all told me that. Well, we were laughing last week because we were talking about the Oregon Trail, that game from the 80s, and how you must have been a little bit of a disruptor
Crazy?
to think, I was going to say a disruptor, to think that you were going to come to a state where you either had to cross a massive river or a giant mountain to get to this really fertile land. And so we were joking that Oregon's always been an innovative place because there was literally nothing here. You had to figure out a lot. You had to figure out a lot with people you maybe didn't know very well. And like, what's that? What's the phrase? Necessity is the mother of invention.
Convention? Yes.
And so then when we look at the entrepreneurial ecosystem now, we still have that. And I talked about this at the OEN Awards. You know, Oregon is the birthplace of the tater tot and the corn dog and a berry. I mean, a Marion berry was
Yeah.
genetically engineered at Oregon State, and the Phillips head screw, which means the Phillips head screwdriver. So, like,
Yeah.
we've got the hacky sack. We have one of the largest vacation rental platforms. Like, we are seeing a lot of M&A activity come out of the tech scene. We have Phil Knight and Nike, but at this point, he and his wife have donated $1 billion to drive science and deep tech innovation. And so we have this really interesting state that has in the US university system, you can have a land, air, space, and water as your type of universities, your grants that you get. And we have
Really?
one of each in the state of Oregon. And so, like, we have really interesting things that are going on. And we are the fifth best state for entrepreneurship in the country as of 2024. And if you dive deeper into those numbers, we are actually the best state for women entrepreneurs because we have more women in executive positions than other states per capita. We have more
Wow.
fund managers who are working in venture that are women than any state in the country. We are also, and I love this fact because this fact is from the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Foundation. So the NASDAQ is not a small name in the US.
Yeah.
We are the best state if you are a Black entrepreneur when you look at policy to help Black entrepreneurs thrive, as well as access to capital. So, like across the board, we've got these innovative people, we've got these kind of crazy off people who want to live in this like wild, rugged place. We have a lot of collaboration and we have a lot of policy. And even though no one else that's an entrepreneur would agree with me, funding support to help people start businesses and great organizations that are working statewide to support entrepreneurs.
Well, and OEN is one of those great organizations that has really, really gone statewide. You mentioned a stat that I want to touch on for a moment. You mentioned that Oregon has the highest per capita female leaders in the entrepreneurial scene. So both of you are female leaders. Could you speak to that experience? And Cecilia, maybe I could ask you to go first and talk about what it's like being a female leader of an organization as big and as successful as Darwoft.
Well, I think that we bring something different. I don't know if, or at least it's good for next generations to see that we can lead companies. That, for example, I also enforce that more women leads teams, leads projects. So because we can do it, because we are the same, is like we are equals to men. So I think that it's not bad to say that because I am really passionate of all the things that I am doing. So it's something that I can do. And having this position as a leader in Cordoba, there are other organizations also like OEN. I am part of the Cordoba cluster technology. So it's true that a lot of tech companies are led by men. So with my style, it's like they can see that it's good, that we are growing, that I am not a man, but I can do it very well or much better than others also. So I don't know. It's something that I have to thank my partners at Darwoft, right? Because the first owner of Darwoft were two men, Santiago and Valdemar. So, and when I joined, when I merged the company, they decided, so, and it was a big decision to trust on me, on my styles, on all my studies and my experience to lead the company. So it's something that I really love how it's changing and the new startups that I saw also in the pub talk that are being led by women, and we are doing a fantastic job.
Yes, you are. And what's so impressive to me is you do it fluidly in 2 languages.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for that insight, Cecilia. How about you, Cara?
It's interesting. There is a lot of women leaders in our life and bioscience space. And like that has been really fun. Like almost, we run a program called Angel Organ Life and Bio. And outside of one organization, it is a woman leader. However, that organization has tapped a woman to partner with us, probably because we were exhibiting such good leadership skills. And we are like, okay, we need another woman on this team. So we see it in tech. I think food is an interesting part of our entrepreneurial landscape. And about at any given moment, 80% of the folks that are leading food and beverage companies are women. It's a little bit of a lower barrier to entry. And I think that where we can do a little bit better is in some of the what I would say traditional entrepreneurial contexts, like so more in the tech and the deep tech. I have been in innovation meetings where I am the only woman outside of an admin. And I just find that shocking in this day and age in Portland. And I've said it. And so
Yeah.
if you look even at our state economic development agency, innovation and entrepreneurship is run by an amazing woman, Kate Skinner. So I know the women are there and I always like to see more of them. And now there is a joke that I will not hire men, which is not true. I just happen to have an entire team of women, but that was by like accident and not design.
Yeah. Well, it does remind me of what Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Supreme Court Justice, said when she was asked about, how many women are enough on the Supreme Court? And she said, why not all 9?
Yeah, why not all 9?
We've had a Supreme Court that's all male. Why not all female? I mean, what's the downside? And I think the upside is that women are fantastic leaders. And yes, they're human beings, just like everybody else, but bring a style of leadership that I think is inclusive and is powerful and is passionate and is nurturing. So thank you for your leadership there. And speaking of that capacity for women to lead, we're in a political environment now, both in Argentina and in the US, where diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives are being shut down by the feds. And as we all know, those initiatives are around hiring people for merit rather than for skin color or gender. And so, how do we continue to hire for excellence in that environment? How do we continue to build excellent teams? And Cecilia, can I go to you first?
Yes. Well, I think that companies need to continue instead of whatever is being discussed in politicals or all the changes that they are trying to do. I think that we are here to continue growing with to be equals and to hire the best people for our companies. And we will continue working to have more, as we were discussing, more female in our company, more diversity, to be more inclusive, to work with respect in our company. So it's more than that, it's human beings. And of course that we need to adapt every day and we need to improve how to deal when we are different. And different is how to deal with when I am here in Portland, I am different, I talk different. So someone can look at me as strange, but well, it's to deal with that. And but I think that now we are in a better position, all the companies, because of all the work that we were been doing regarding that. So it's not something that because someone said that we need to do it different, right? So we see all the improvements in our companies to hire. I don't like to say even to different people. Is to hire the correct people for our company.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would second that. Like, we actually are a recipient of some government funding. It does have a diversity component. There is a possibility we will lose it, which is super disappointing. And, one of our core values is that everyone is invited. And what we saw last year is like by just sort of living that core value, we attract a different crowd of people, whether it's entrepreneurs, whether it's investors, whether it's event attendees. And so, sure, we would like to avoid the Justice Department. So we're not going to say things like everyone is welcome, regardless of race, gender, sexual orientation. Now we're just going to stop at everyone is welcome. And we're going to do the things that we've always done to make that a reality.
Yeah.
And I also just think, like, whether people like it or not, the United States of America's demographics have shifted. And I think that the stat is by like 2050, 50% of US citizens will identify as multiracial. And I think that you see it. We've been really excited. And I think we talked about this last night that we've been seeing students come to our OEN events, which is super fun. And they're a super diverse crowd. Like, you're not just seeing young white guys show up to entrepreneur events anymore. And that is really, really fun. And so we're just going to keep on keeping on, and we may talk about it differently, but I'm also kind of fiery and I may not talk about it differently. So I hope you will all send me flowers when I wind up in some kind of weird prison from the diversity police.
Well, it's heartening to hear that both of you are continuing your efforts to grow the best teams in some of the best entrepreneurial environments. So I'll just wrap up by asking, what do you dare to dream? So, Cecilia, do you want to kick us off? What do you dare to dream?
Okay, I dare to dream a future where technology empowers individuals, empowers businesses, and to reach our full potential. And I think that with innovation, driven with a purpose, with AI, so we can build solutions that, well, as we were discussing, to solve complex problems and in a positive way, right? Not ruining the planet. So trying to be so with purpose and with responsibility, I can say.
Wow, that's quite the dream. Great to hear that. Thank you, Cecilia. How about you, Cara? What do you dare to dream?
I dare to dream that Oregon can be a state that is great both to start a business and sustain it. And the sustaining is a little harder here. So I have a dream where we bring in more than 0.3% of the venture capital in a given year. I have a dream that while we continue to be the number one state of people founding businesses, that we move up from being the 46th one where they're most likely to close. I have a dream that we are a place where people come to build companies and then stay to grow them here. And I imagine that we do that as a collective community and that the organizations that are here work even better together for the sake of the community.
Thank you both. This has been a really inspirational session, and I'm really glad we were able to get you together, both in person last night at the Pub Talk and now today on the podcast. And this will go live next week. So hopefully the conversation will continue this year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ned.
Thanks, Ned.
Thanks to our guests today for their insights into the entrepreneurial ecosystem. We wish you all the best in your startup journey. The Dare Show is brought to you by the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network and by Darwoft, the superpower tech team that can make your vision a reality. Visit us at oen.org or at darwoft.io. Thanks again for listening. Till next time.